There's a common misconception in Star Wars that the Mandalorians are themselves their own species, and while the majority of Mandalorians we see in Star Wars media appear human and hail from the planet of Mandalore, the term Mandalorian is not used to refer to a species, but a culture, meaning that technically any being that follows the Mandalorian creed, language, and code, regardless of their species, can be considered a Mandalorian. And this is perhaps most notably represented by Grogu, following his induction into the Mandalorian society as a new foundling. But there are also a number of other non-human Mandalorians that have donned the famous Beskar helmet over the centuries. So join us today, friends, as we take a lore tour of some of the aliens that followed the Mandalorian way. Within pre-Disney Legends canon, the Mandalorians themselves actually began as an alien species known as the Tong. This grey-skinned species was relatively similar in appearance to ancient humans, who are believed to have shared the homeworld of Coruscant with the Tong, except the Tong had flowing head-tails, claws, and a pointy, bony skull, the likeness of which would inspire the design of future Mandalorian helmets. Intense fighting with the 13 human nations of Coruscant, known as the Battalions of Zell, began many millennia before the Galactic Republic formed, and the Tong were eventually driven off Coruscant, after which they were then led by a new leader known as Mandalore I, and they would conquer and settle on a number of new worlds, including one in the Outer Rim territories which they named Mandalore, after their leader. The Tong then took on the name Mandalorians and became known for their relentless fighting spirit and strict code of honor, as these Mandalorians embarked on a brutal crusade invading and conquering new worlds. A number of entirely different species were inducted into the Mandalorian culture as client species, one of these species being the Mandalorian giants, heavily muscled humanoids that stood taller and wider than even a Wookiee, and these giants not only repelled the Mandalorian invasion, but also impressed the invaders so much with their martial abilities, that many of these giants were invited to become one with the Mandalorians, adopting their ways, language, and armor. Shortly before the Mandalorian Wars against the Republic during the Restoration period, around 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the then Mandalorian leader, Mandalore the Ultimate, realized that many of his species, the Tong, which still remained the most prominent species within the Mandalorian ranks, had been killed over various crusades and during the Great Sith War some few years earlier. To fix this, Mandalore the Ultimate began aggressively expanding the Mandalorian ranks, inducting more non-Tong members from their client species alongside individuals of high martial prowess from various other species across the galaxy. And this included humans such as Canderous Ordo and Casus Fett, the beautiful near-human Zeltrons, notably Antos Wyrick, and Togruta such as Field Marshal Garon Borm. As the rejuvenated Mandalorian forces continued to expand and conquer new worlds, they set up a number of forward outposts that would serve as both supply posts for future raids, and as recruitment centers. These bases would train up new Mandalorian warriors of all species, swelling their ranks with Devaronians, Zygarians, Drachmarians, and many more species. This influx of beings from countless worlds would lead to the creation of the Neo-Crusader armor, a fairly uniform set of combat armor that would help foster a sense of unity and community amongst all Mandalorians. And while this new Mandalorian army looked at one point set to defeat the Republic and take overall control of the galaxy, the Mandalorians were eventually defeated and Mandalore the Ultimate fell at the hands of Revan, throwing the Mandalorian clans into disarray and bringing the Tong species to the brink of extinction, their numbers in the Mandalorian culture seemingly supplanted by the growing number of humans that had decided to follow the way of the Mandalore. This handover from Tong majority to human majority was symbolically confirmed when the human Canderous Ordo took the mantle of Mandalore from an unidentified Tong, the last of his species to hold the title. And from this point on, it would seem that the Mandalore and the Mandalorians as a whole would remain mainly human. In Disney canon, this origin seems to have been done away with, and the Tong themselves have been relegated to a minor species that once existed on ancient Coruscant. It's unclear, but it would seem that the Mandalorians in canon would appear to have been originally human, and as far as I can tell, we're yet to see a fully fledged non-human Mandalorian in current Star Wars canon. But as mentioned earlier, with Grogu's induction as a Mandalorian foundling, it is not only possible for there to have been alien Mandalorians, but downright likely, given the sheer number of these warriors to exist over the centuries. We're likely just yet to see them in canon at present due to the added cost of designing new helmets and costumes for noticeably different species, such as twi'leks, Rodians, or Wookiees. But who really knows? Under the helmets of the Children of the Watch could be many Zabrak, Umbarans, and other members of near-human species. We'll just never know due to their reluctance to remove these iconic helmets. What do you think? Will we see more alien Mandalorians as the expanding Disney canon releases new content? Which species would you most like to see in their own custom helmet? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to Lore Tours to get your passport to your favourite fictional worlds. Thanks for watching, catch you next time.